Hi, I'm Kim Blascoe. I'm Senior Director of CAS Professional Services at CPA.com. I joined CPA.com on June 1st of 2023. Prior to that, I was a CAS leader at Whitley for 11 of my 13 years there. And I'm excited to be here, and I have Nicole with me, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Great. Thank you very much, Kim. Yes, Nicole Ksiazek. I am the director of the Sage Intacct Accountants Program. I've been with Sage for 8 years. And prior to Sage, I was a practitioner with RSM, where I was working in the outsourced accounting division.
So we both have history in the practice side of the house.
We
That's cool.
do, yes, especially from the beginning.
We can reminisce on many things. So it's hard to believe, but a few months ago, we were at Sage Transform, and I think there were probably over 300 firms and CAS leaders there talking about key trends, issues impacting their practices, and certainly technology, since that's one of the reasons we were there, and also how technology can enable efficiencies as well as adding value for the higher services that they want to offer in their CAS practices. So it was 5 days of crazy fun, right? We talked a lot about things. There were many sessions. There were keynotes. If you were to sum up maybe some of the key takeaways that happened at Sage Transform and maybe share with us some of those takeaways for everyone.
Sure, absolutely. I think the most important thing about Sage Transform is the community that we have with our SIAP partners and also with the customers and other vendors that are there. It really is an area where everyone can share, and they do share their challenges and opportunities as well. I would say the three main areas, though, were the CAS practice transformation, and that takes many forms: digital transformation, resource transformation, and also our verticalization strategy. We find that is very important to partners as they're going down this path. And finally, the emergence of AI in technology.
Oh, and we're going to talk a lot about those today. So that's great that you picked those three topics. So practice transformation, everybody's talking about what is driving CAS transformation. And I think there's a couple different things. First off, when we talk about CAS transformation, we talk about it from maybe people that already have some form of accounting practice, and they're wanting to transform that into more of a CAS practice. And then I also think about it from, we have many firms that don't have any form of CAS practice yet. And what does that mean to build that out? And why is everybody looking at this? What's driving it? Well, clearly, top line revenue is a big part of it. Gross margin, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But, CAS continues to be one of the highest performing growth measures for firms, and more firms are getting into what they think they should be adding from a CAS service perspective. And then people also say to me a lot, like, how can we be successful at our transformation? And I always talk about it from a strategy perspective. You have to have a strategic plan. You need to think about what your CAS vision is going to be for your practice, because not everybody's vision is the same. And then you have to start thinking about who are going to be your clients? What verticals are you going to work in? Who's going to do the work? How are we going to do the work? What technology are we going to use in our practice? And then how are we going to package all of that? How are we going to price it? How are we going to figure out where clients are at today so that we can bring them into our CAS practice? And how can we market that, internal or external? And I know I threw a lot of things out there, but all of those are like super important to think about, right? And then, when people say to me, well, what advice do you have for firms? And I'm like, well, you have to figure out what kind of firm you are, right? So you might be a DIY firm, and that type of firm looks at, just give me some resources and I'll do it myself, right? So maybe they'll go through a CAS roadmap workshop, or they'll purchase a toolkit that helps them with at least the tool part of it. Or you have firms that already have some things in place and they maybe just need some consulting on it. Or you have firms that are like, yeah, just give me everything, right? I need everything from A to Z that I mentioned.
With it.
Yeah, so that then they can very easily, just work through a process. And there's a lot to it. I mentioned all those pieces to it. So I really think that from a perspective of, what's happening, inside of CAS practices, I think it's really important to think, one thing I didn't mention was verticalization. You mentioned it. Very, very important. So I did at Sage Transform a session with John Yeager and Karina Creedon, and the session was called Verticalize to Maximize How Growth Strategy, High Growth Strategies in CAS. I think you sat in on that session with us. Maybe you could give what some of your takeaways were from that session.
Well, again, the wonderful thing about Sage Transform is that we have practitioners that are speaking to our partners. And Mike Yeager did an excellent job of showing how his firm had made that journey through to CAS practice and what they can do there. And they did decide early on that they were going to concentrate on a specific vertical so that they could go deep and wide. And that takes many forms. What you can start with is not-for-profits, as an example. But then as you start to evolve your practice and decide the type of services that you want to provide, how you're going to price that out, you can then go further into that vertical.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, well, why do I have to verticalize? There are a lot of practices out there that are still generalized. And, I go back to saying what's driving CAS transformation, right? One of the reasons we verticalize and we always talk about you should look at verticals is because that high growth comes from a verticalized practice. It's very, very hard to get the margins and turn over that revenue at that high level if you aren't in a verticalized practice. We talk about that, and we're getting ready to launch a new CAS benchmark survey May 1st. People will see that popping into their emails really, really soon. But when we look at the data that we had from 2022, we had gross margins of like 37%. We had client fees per professional of $231,000. Those are big numbers, and we don't see that in other areas of practice inside of public accounting firms. So, I think the verticalization part of it is so important. How can Sage Intacct help people with that verticalization concept?
Sure. So what I can say is you're right about verticalization, because if you're able to concentrate your team on a specific vertical, then they can have the standardization that they need. So one way that Sage Intacct can help with that, especially through our accountants program, is that we offer resources to help with that verticalization. An example is on our accountant console, you can have a templated version of your company so that once you have your vertical and once you decide how your financial statements are going to look, what your processes are going to be, the types of users that you're going to have in those systems, you can then use that template so that the next one is going to be that much easier.
That's beautiful. I mean, honestly, you think about how that streamlines and standardizes your processes. That's something that can be really amazing inside of a CAS practice. I know when we did that Sage Transform session on verticalization, John Yeager's was family office. Family office is a very complicated vertical, right? Yes. And to build out your technology piece of it is also very complicated. And I think Sage Intacct has done a really nice job of helping family office practices, even though there's a lot to it, a lot of integration. The beauty of Sage Intacct is it allows all those integrations. And then nonprofit was the other piece that we did there too, which is a little bit simpler. Definitely family office, the most complicated.
Correct. And you're right. The fact that we have the API feeds that allow you to gather information from a variety of sources or push information out so that you can analyze it in a different way is very helpful for the practitioners.
Yeah, and I think, until you're actually in that situation where you need to do that stuff, you don't realize how important and difficult that can be, and that the functionality of Sage Intacct really helps for that. So maybe pivot a little. AI, everybody's talking about AI. That's like our buzzwords in our world, but certainly in our industry as well. And we're talking a lot about, how is AI transforming the accounting firm industry as well. And we're seeing a lot of that. When we were at Sage Transform, Aaron Harris, your CTO, announced Sage Copilot. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that and what that means to Sage and even from an availability perspective?
Yes, we're really excited. You are correct. Sage Copilot was announced. So that is a generative AI copilot that's going to be able to help accountants just work more efficiently within their systems. So it is an AI powered assistant that will allow you to integrate with systems such as Microsoft Teams so that you can start to ask it the questions that you need. So you no longer need to look and click into the information. The Sage Copilot will be able to bring the information to you. What I can say is it's not yet available, but it is further development. So we're going to say stay tuned, but we're hoping to see some integration with it by the end of the year in certain areas of Sage.
I'm a huge Gen AI person. I love ChatGPT. I love Microsoft Copilot. So, I guess while you are working out your implementation, people can start jumping on those other technology platforms for Gen AI and get comfortable with them, because we still see so many people that aren't using any form of Gen AI. And I'm like, how can you not? It makes your life so much easier. So,
well, we always have the laggards who want to, start someplace and then, wait for others to work through it. But one thing I'm going to say there is I think it's important to talk to the vendors, especially your technology vendors, to see where they are on that AI journey. So we've already have some features and functionality that use that. And I don't know if everybody knows about that. So, if I can talk just for a few moments about some of the ones that we are currently using. So an example is our GL outlier detector, where you can have the AI running in the background and pull information for transactions that might be unusual and bring them to the forefront to say, is this really a good transaction that seems unusual based on the trends that we're seeing within your monthly transaction functionality. Another one is AP automation, and we're really excited about that. That is something that is going to be open to the SIAP partners. We're doing a limited release right now, but that's something where you're able to have your AP transactions automated. And we know that resources is definitely an area that everyone can use a little help with. So this will just be one additional area to allow them to do their higher value services and have some of the, we'll say routine tasks accomplished within the system.
Yeah, the AP automation thing, so you mentioned that. Are there any other cool new tools that are coming out that maybe the SIAP partners need to know about?
Sure. So a few other items that we have are the intelligence products. So that is the SaaS intelligence, ministry, and also project intelligence, which allows you to have visualization of the data in a slightly different way. We also have the Sage Intacct payroll powered by ADP. So that is a Workforce Now product that is now integrated into Sage Intacct. So many times with payroll, it's a download, upload. So this allows you to work within the systems and have that information flow seamlessly.
So those are some cool, fun tools, right? Yes. How about anything else in 2024 that's going to be coming down the pipeline?
What I'm going to say, one thing that we're concentrating on with our partners is utilizing and maybe revisiting some of the product functionality that we have that they might not be currently using. So as an example, within our non-for-profit, we're encouraging dynamic allocations, spend management. We also have a interesting fixed asset product that is coming. So some of you who may have looked at Sage fixed assets in the past, what I'm going to say is there is a new and better version that is being introduced. So stay tuned for that.
That's great. A lot of times CAS leaders say, how the heck do I stay ahead of the curve on this stuff? And, when we talk about this with firms, I'm always like, first of all, you need to be continuously looking at your tech stack, right? That's just super important.
Yes.
The other thing is you really need to have people that this is part of their job. Maybe isn't all of their job, depending on how big your firm is, but you really need to have a committee of people that are constantly looking at new technology and integrations and what that means. And even from a Sage Intacct perspective, we've talked about a few things, actually several things today that people probably aren't even aware are happening, and
right.
that, it's the here and now. It's not like 5 years down the road, it's what's available today. So I think that's all really, really important, and they need to realize that that has to be a key part of your CAS practice, because we all know that the whole reason, one of the reasons CAS is so successful and continuing to throw out very, very good margins is because we continue to automate things that are maybe those lower level tasks that used to be all manually done. So automation is a huge part of a CAS practice. It will continue to be a huge part of it. And eventually we'll be at a point where all of that back office piece, probably all the way through the controller piece, will be mostly an automated process. And then we can do what we love to do the most, is advise clients.
Just analyze.
Right? That's right. Yes. That's right. So thank you, Nicole, for joining us. I think everything that you offer to us from Insights is always so valuable. If anyone wants to know more about CPA.com and the Sage Intacct Accountants Program, please check the comments for links in our website.